It's coming up. Yes, I can.
All right.
Great. Okay, let's get started. Okay, I'd like to introduce everyone to Rick Teplitz. Rick is the manager of technical writers and documentation project manager at Imperva. Rick started the initiative at Imperva to bring a better customer experience around access to technical information at Imperva. And this is really kind of the fruit of his labors for the past couple of years. So Rick, we're very much looking forward to seeing your demo and your use case and kind of walking us through before and after and where you are now and where you're planning to go. So I'd like to kick it off and welcome Rick. Rick, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the initiative of how you started at Imperva and the objectives you had and things you were facing in order to to seek a better solution, a better unified documentation solution.
All right. So first of all, thank you very much for that warm welcome, Joe. Our project started on the basis that we were basically a legacy company, like most companies. We delivered our documentation by PDFs and FTP. We also grew. We were actually a conglomerate of a number of companies, and really just the user experience for our customers was growing worse by the day. So we were looking for a way to offer all our content from one location in a single branded interface, and that's pretty much how it started.
Can you walk us through the key functionality and the benefits that you identified that were important to support your goals, and the tools you eventually selected in order to to get that better experience?
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I'm actually just pop it open in a slide here because it's a little bit easier for reference as part of the presentation.
Great.
So there were a number of things that we were looking to achieve. As I mentioned, we had a unified single front end that we wanted to create. We were 4 different companies each, which had our own branding, and it was very important, particularly for some of the management, to make sure that we can guarantee that single consistent user experience. We wanted to put all our content in one place and let users find it from a single search. Particularly with my team, we were spending huge amounts of time just creating PDFs, and it was just a big nightmare. We wanted to eliminate that if possible. Mm-hmm. We had changes coming all the time, but due to our delivery cycle, we would deliver a new version every 3 months and PDF updates, meaning that if there was a bug in the documentation, it really only got fixed and provided to customers after a few months. So we wanted to speed that up. We were looking to make these changes, and basically, let's say that we wanted minimal negative disruption, meaning that we wanted to be able to keep working and not to have to pay too much of a price to achieve our goals. So,
right, sounds good. So you mentioned earlier that a little bit about that earlier experience. Can you show us an example of the updated experience you have now? An example maybe of the a typical scenario that a customer would go through in order to find content in your system?
Yeah, actually, if I really wanted to show it, I'd go to Google, because we've actually found out that the majority of our visitors come from the search engines directly to what they're looking for. And maybe I can even start there really quick. Right, so if I go to Google and I'm looking for something for Imperva DDoS configuration, with maybe if I can spell it right, we can see already that the first hit here is docs.imperva.com, which is our documentation portal. Of course, users can come to the main website and they can look what they're looking for. Let's say that they're looking for information on configuring Kpis. Kpis is a protocol that's used for identity management at Microsoft, and so one of our products supports that configuration. So we can out of the box, we see that customers are seeing hits which are relevant to them. We can see, for example, if customers have our web application firewall, which is primarily what that's used inside of, and also the database activity monitoring. They can come here and then they can filter their content, right? So using the taxonomy, which we defined in the beginning of the project, they can filter, for example, by the version that they're currently using, because this is an on-premise product. They can also filter by other parameters. For example, if they deploy this product through a hypervisor or through the public cloud, such as Amazon AWS, they can filter depending on their deployment type. So a user would come in here, search, they find their answer, HTML-based. As you can see, all this content is displayed in a single format. They want to download something as a PDF. Now, as we had mentioned before, we used to spend tons of time creating PDFs. Now we create no time creating PDFs. All the content is hosted in HTML, and PDFs are created on the fly based on the HTML or XML, and users can download as a PDF the current topic, topic and subtopic, or the entire book. So.
Very good. Now, you mentioned about the search. Can you mention? You mentioned earlier about the ability to have like a unified experience across multiple content sources. So when you do a search, are you only looking for documentation, or are there other aspects of content that people are finding?
Well, right now, and this is what you're seeing is our production environment. It's currently only documentation, and you can see, for example, that we have a library, and really the library is books. You know, in today's world, obviously books is becoming a little bit less relevant, but that's what the library supports. But right now, we are actually currently in a project with Zoomin to add functionality. This is our staging environment. You can see it's a different URL. And when you go to search for content now, for example, we have designed and built integration with our customer community, which is hosted by Higher Logic. So this is actually an external system. So Zoomin has basically federated our search with the customer community so that search results not only include the document content which is in the documentation portal, but additionally includes community results. Now, if a user clicked a link from one of these community results, and I actually don't know if there's anything for Kerberos, so maybe I should find something that there probably is, because our community is also pretty new. But basically, they'll be taken to the community as opposed to displayed that content in line inside of the documentation portal, but still they're getting that content delivered, at least in the search results, all in a single location. So here you can see there probably is here, we do have community results, and then if I was to click a link here, that would take us to the customer community, all right. So separately, you also see now we have a third option here, which is knowledge base. So as part of this project, what we're doing is we've added the knowledge base component to our deployment, and we are currently migrating our content from our CRM instances. Now, if anybody had viewed my session before, you'll know that Imperva currently has 4 different instances of CRMs, including Salesforce, 2 instances of Zendesk and Freshdesk. And so really the user experience is that users didn't know where to go to look for information, right? They might have to go to any one of 4 separate knowledge bases at 4 different URLs between different logins, by the way, meaning that if they needed to log into a different resource, they probably needed to get another set of login credentials. So we're taking all of that knowledge-based content and moving it here. And so when users come to search, they will now get results from all 3 of these sources, and they can also filter by them. So you can see, for example, this is a knowledge-based article that users can see. So previously, users would have to search literally across at least 7 to 8 repositories separately, some which required separate logins. And when we're finished with this, which is in the next couple of months, they'll be able to search just here, get all their answers.
Wow, that's really powerful. So basically we see one central portal, documentation portal, but really an information portal, right? Someone comes in, they're able to navigate, they're able to do a search, they're able to use filters based on taxonomy, which we'll get to a little bit later in the discussion. Able to filter by taxonomy, be able to search across not only documentation, but also community articles coming from a separate system, from knowledge base coming from Salesforce, and really bring that together as a unified search experience inside of one central, basically one place to go in order to find all this content.
Yeah, I mean, it's dramatically improved the lives. I mean, I'm sure of our customers, but even more so our internal employees, right? Support is so on board. The amount of usage of our documentation portal by our support engineers, our sales engineers, marketing and sales for that matter, is just tremendous. I mean, we get a lot of feedback, which is great. That means that they're using it. In the past, documentation was locked away, and it's just dramatically accelerated our ability to onboard and deliver content and deliver changes, and of course improve user experience for anybody that's visiting. So.
Very nice. So you talked about support. So the idea of someone coming and finding answers to questions, helping support. That's the idea of that, of case deflection, of people finding what they need self-service before and removing the need to go and open a case. Are there other case deflection tools that you're putting into place?
So yes, as part of our project, basically what I call phase 2 of the project, part of our project that we're currently working on developing with Zoomin, we have implemented the case deflection widget. And basically what that means is that if you come, this is in staging. This is not yet in production. So you're seeing something that's being worked on live. This is going to be our updated customer support portal. This is inside of Salesforce. I won't show you, but I will tell you that basically the old experience of opening a case was you'd come, you'd search before you open the case, specifically in Salesforce, it would only find a very limited amount of results. Not only that, but all of our documentation that was in Salesforce was in PDF format. So you didn't have topic level results. You'd get an answer with the name of a PDF, and you'd have to realize that you had to download that PDF and then open that PDF and then Control F and search through it, which was just a ridiculous task. So it pretty much was worthless. So what we've done now is we've taken the Zoomin case deflection widget using the taxonomy that we've defined. So if you come here and you take a look basically on the filters, these are the product entries inside of our taxonomy for our two main product categories: application security and data security. We've broken that down slightly differently inside of the case deflection widget, where a user will come here, they'll select their product category, then they'll select their main product, and the type of case they want to open, severity, and then they type the subject of the case. So let's say agent disconnection, right? So what happens is already the case deflection widget populates with results from all the repositories, meaning that you can see information specifically related to documentation, right? Mm-hmm. You can see community cases, which is taken from the Higher Logic platform, which discussed, it's again looking for those keywords based on the taxonomy. Users can see their own cases, which might be related. I don't have any cases open right now, so that's not populated. And also separately, there will be a knowledge base tab here. It just hasn't been added. That's really something that's supposed to be added in the next few days, and obviously will be ready before I go live. But all of this is really geared to provide customers the tools to resolve their case and prevent them from, in the end, coming back and clicking save, or in other words, creating a case. And so we're really, really excited about this. I can tell you that when we first started this phase 2, which included the federated search with the community and Salesforce, included the knowledge base component, we were excited about it. And one of the guys from Zoomin came and joined a call with our head of IT, and you talked about the case deflection widget, which was new. And so our head of IT wanted to know what it was, saw it, and literally within 48 hours, basically approved budget for it, because it was identified as being such a key enabler for our customers and to enable our support team to deflect cases and reduce the load of the team. So it's really we have great hopes for it, great expectations. We're waiting also. There'll be analytics delivered as part of this so that we can see and track the number of cases which have been deflected. Basically, users not going on and continuing to open a case, and we'll be able to measure that too as part of our KPIs.
Wow, that's amazing to show that when someone sees the value so clearly and is able to go and approve a budget so quickly, that really kind of shows the power of such a solution like this to really make a very significant and immediate effect on the business.
Considering it took me pretty much 4 or 5 years to get budget for any type of project like this, it was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Just goes to show how the documentation as a foundation, sometimes it's hard to get that awareness in the organization, but once it's you have somewhat of a basis, they have the portal going, and then you're able to kind of show that, make that case across the organization about, and show how that can be creating more and more value.
Yeah. And connecting that with the company goals was also critical. I mean, we have a new CEO and a new VP of customer success who are really driving to be, as everybody I think, but still driving to be customer centric and enabling our customers to solve their own cases, reduce friction, reduce attrition, improve satisfaction. And so, it becomes clear when our sponsor for this phase 2 of the project was the head of customer success. So when we were already integrated as part of this project, I had launched this project before they had launched their project of merging the 4 different CRMs. And basically, it was just once we connected in the middle and they saw what we were doing and the potential, they understood immediately the value that could be given to our customers and to the organizations.
Excellent. Okay, so before we move on, just to kind of unpack what we're seeing here is, in what you just showed, I'm seeing on the screen case deflection widget inside of Salesforce, which is connected to a Salesforce community knowledge base. That search, as we saw before, is really the same search engine, same search tagging, and everything else that's being drawn from the main portal, which has the unified search between documentation, community, knowledge base articles, and cases.
So
now,
if I can just interject something really shortly there. When we upload, let's say, a document, we provide classification as part of the mechanism. It uses the taxonomy, which we have here. We tag content and state what product it's for, what version it's for, and so forth. And so when the case deflection widget goes to the documentation portal, users basically, when they select their products here, it then uses that same classification facet in the taxonomy to query the information. So basically, you can see all the tagging here. This is the result of the taxonomy, and that's how the tool knows what to take. So you can see on-premises WAF is tagged here, and so based on the taxonomy that we defined, it's going and calling the relevant information. And so that's really, I guess, what connects everything together, right? So I thought it was important to emphasize.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like the glue, like you said, that holds a lot of this, functionally together. Can you say, give us a couple of words about how you built this taxonomy? Like, what was the process you went through to decide which tags to put there?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, it was a very opportune time for us when we launched this portal 2 years ago. We had another new CEO, right? This is our third CEO, and I don't know, about 3 or 4 years. But we were rethinking our licensing model, and this is also something I touched upon in my session. We used to be what they call a house of brands. So we had each one of our products was a very well-known brand. For example, we have a product called Encapsula, and anybody that works in security pretty much has heard of Encapsula. It's a cloud web application firewall, and so we had a number of products that each one were pretty much their own brand. And it's great for marketing and sales, but the problem is that people just don't know how to buy products. You come and you start to research a product, you're looking for a cloud WAF. You're not looking for Encapsula, right? So users got lost in that conversion. So as part of our project, we basically did renaming of all of our products and licensing. So all of our products got new names, and we did that at the exact same time that we started setting up the taxonomy. So I pretty much led the creation of the taxonomy together with, I was also the project manager, by the way, for the rebranding for the entire company. So I got to formulate all of this together, with the organization. And so that's what helped us define the taxonomy. Now, there's other elements here besides the products, right? We have our on-premises version, which is part of that taxonomy. This is another products version that we had to define. As I mentioned before, we have hypervisor installation, because our on-prem product can be installed in Linux KVM or Microsoft Hyper-V or VMware, which is probably one that most people have heard of, documentation type. So it was really a matter of understanding our products, understanding what kind of information was most useful for helping users find the relevant content, consulting internally. We did a little bit of user testing with marketing. The user testing was more geared towards the usability and how we set up the documentation portal, but it also had elements inside related to the taxonomy.
Very good. All right, so we talked a lot about support, being able to provide case deflection, self-service. Talked about the taxonomy. You just mentioned now about marketing and analyzing, doing user testing on the site. Can you walk us through a little bit about how the objectives of the portal and this experience basically has evolved over time through support, through marketing, and just tell me how the project and the awareness of and the value awareness of the project and the implementation evolved over time.
Yeah, it's been an evolution. I'd say that's probably the best word for it, right? When I initiated the project and got budget for it, nobody really understood what it was more than putting our documentation online, right? Mm-hmm. And the impact of that, everybody else is busy with their own jobs. We're a big company, everybody's got their roles, everybody's focused on what they're trying to do. And documentation is an afterthought. I mean, everybody knows that you need documentation, but the amount that they're willing to invest in it is limited. I can tell you that I've been in the company for 12 years. I was hired on to a team of 3 technical writers. We had 2 products. Today we have more than a dozen products, and we are 4 technical writers instead of 3. So, I mean, after 12 years and a huge increase in amount of content, it's that investment hasn't changed yet. It's actually starting to change. But getting back to your question about the evolution of things, once we got the content here, because the marketing team was our sponsor for the first phase, they were actually a key element in helping us understand the potential, right? They helped us, for example, with the guidelines for SEO, which has made this portal a very big success as far as a traffic generation tool. We're the we're the second most trafficked resource inside of the company outside of our main Imperva.com. And then once they saw that, they said, the marketing team said, okay, well, let's start to do some testing, see what we can do here, see what people are visiting here. So as an example, and again, I talk about this in my session, let's just see if it's running now. We started playing with what's called a call to action, right? So call to action, and we'll see if hopefully we'll load here in a minute. A call to action is really just a button that somebody presses, and then it opens a form. If you're lucky, the user will be interested enough to complete that form and send it, and that will create a lead. It's what's called lead generation. I don't see it here, but really we discovered as part of this process that the documentation portal isn't only there it can be used for more than just giving customers and users information on how to use our product, but it could actually be leveraged in order to generate lead for sales, right? So we worked together with the marketing team, and we tested, and we haven't built it in. That's why I'm looking here. There's a product that we use called Optimized Lead, and they sometimes, because it hasn't yet been hard-coded into the page, it's not always appearing, but usually it is appearing on most of our products. And what happens is we discovered by adding this button that allows users to come and click it and create a lead, we've actually started generating on average at least 1 lead a day, which extrapolated over the year obviously is more than 365 leads in a year. So we're going to be tracking this information as part of the portal, which I had also touched upon before. We've developed a set of KPIs which include lead generation, right? So we're actually building this. I'm working with our sales team to create reports so that we can query and report on these different parameters so that we can track and see in the end how much revenue we actually managed to contribute to the pipeline. Because obviously that's something that will benefit the company, and that's something that will help us get more budget if we want to do more projects later on. It's basically opening the eyes of people inside the company and saying, okay, well, documentation has more of a role than just helping customers be able to configure our product, right?
Yeah. Well, so it went from being an afterthought or a checkbox to or a cost center to something you're able to very clearly show financial benefit through case deflection for cost avoidance, and here for actually generating leads and really generating revenue for the organization. It's really pretty amazing. The kind of stature that documentation or this type of technical information has been able to go through with that evolution in your company over the past couple of years is really pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and I'm very optimistic that we'll find additional means of delivering value through the portal, right? I mean, we're partnering inside of the company. We have bi-weekly meetings now with the community and training, the partner portal, for example. We just had a meeting, and they want to use the knowledge base in docs.imperva.com because they're looking for a way that they can provide role-based access to knowledge-based articles, meaning that they want to only expose articles to partners or support people that support the partners, and right now they don't have a platform for doing so. So we're really integrating them now and going to be giving them access to and the ability to create knowledge-based articles and they'll be able to write these articles and then mark them only for viewing by partners, which provides them value, right? So it's when you talked about, discovering, the value that's really kind of locked inside. I mean, it's up to us to figure out how we can leverage this in different ways. And as this entire project evolved, that's something that's never been a problem. It's something that's pulled us forward, really. I mean, it's the value that it continues to give is significant, and I don't really think there's a limit to it, right? It's just our imagination, our creativity of finding ways to leverage it. And the content services not only our customers, right? I mean, because it's indexed publicly, it draws a huge amount of traffic. That's why we can use it, for lead generation. It exposes people to our products that might not be familiar with them. There's just so many benefits that the potential is really endless there. It's just a matter of finding the next way to leverage it. Yeah.
Very nice. So I had the good fortune to participate in Ted's talk yesterday. Ted Wolfe's on the call now, and he was as part of his presentation yesterday. And the candid talk was talking about analytics and about how different things can be measured and how that could bring some benefits. Rick, I know you have a analytics dashboard that's been rolled out. Can you talk a little bit about your usage of that analytics dashboard for customer success and other usage, and how that's been impacting on your organization?
So yeah, the analytics dashboard is something that is relatively new and growing. I've had the chance to go in and play around and take a look. Unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of time to build processes around it. That's something that I really want to get to, but due to the load of our current projects, the project that really we're leveraging this for is we have a department that is looking to create videos, so for self-service, enabling customers to help themselves through video. And so they're looking, for example, for subjects on what videos to create. What are users looking to do? And we have Google Analytics, although it's kind of difficult to separate the wheat from the chaff, the documentation searches from the other searches. So Zoomin Analytics provides us that ability. I mean, really, it's net analytics about the documentation portal, and as you'll see in a moment, it's very easy for us to identify content that customers are looking for. So if we come here and we see the top search queries, which will just take a moment to load, you can see, well, null just means that they ran an empty search, but APIs we know is a very hot topic. We recently also introduced dynamic swagger through the Zoomin portal, where users can come in and use their API ID and key, and maybe that's something I can show in a moment. But you can see already we've got no few set of keywords. We can come in here, and this is basically what the video team is doing. Come in here, download the content, and then they can go through and analyze, see what they think is most relevant, and start identifying topics that they can use for creating video. Because obviously we want to create video for those subjects which are the hottest among our searches, right? Because people are looking for information on them. So the analytics, and as I mentioned, there's a lot of different information on one that this dashboard for me particularly is very interesting, as we have a lot of publications. We have our on-premises versions, and unfortunately we have an obligation. I don't know why this isn't loading, but we have an obligation to keep that content public, even if nobody's looking at it. But it does give us an additional benefit of identifying. It does give us an additional benefit of being able to identify that those publications which we don't need to keep public. I mean, it gives us the justification to come around and say, yeah, it's not loading right now, but it's a great dashboard, and it provides us again. It shows us how often people are looking at specific publications. It also helps us know what products are most popular with our customers, and it helps us filter out items that might be related to that. So, for example, our main product, which is the Cloud WAF platform, we have tens of thousands of customers for. while our on-premises product we have maybe 2,000 or 3,000 customers for. So it's logical that we have a lot more visits to a single stack of information. But for us to get more value out of the information that it's showing us about content, we'd like to filter that out because we want to see, for example, which content is more common among our on-premise users. So the analytics dashboard enables us to filter in that way and see that content.
Got it. Very nice. And so the content overview, being able to find out what people are looking for, also what people are not looking for, being able to see what the freshness is of the content over time. What how popular it is. Old content is still popular. New content is popular. Why it's not popular? Probably something that's probably very useful for your documentation team to understand what to focus on, what to retire. What people are maybe old to content or old parts of the product people are still using when you expect them to be using something else.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you also even more so with the knowledge base. One of the challenges that we have. One of the requirements that I have from the VP of Customer Success is we just ran this huge project, right? We have, let's say, 3,000 knowledge base articles, 2,500 knowledge base articles, and nobody maintains this content, right? Once every 3 or 4 years, they run this huge project to review it, to delete that content which is no longer relevant, to update that content that they want to maintain, and it's a huge, huge burden. So we're looking at ways to leverage the analytics. For example, if we can extrapolate the last time a piece of content was updated versus the last time a piece of content was viewed, and if both of those dates are older than a year, for example, we can weigh maybe eliminating that content if it's no longer relevant, or easily marking it so that we know that the content has been reviewed by somebody from support and it's still relevant, and then we can just there's a freshness date where the content expires in the knowledge base. So we're looking to leverage that to help us build a workflow where we can basically maintain the knowledge base content on the fly without having to run these huge, overwhelming projects of review across literally 100 or 200 knowledge customer personnel.
Wow, amazing. Okay, maybe we'll pause for a second and see if anyone has any questions. There's a few people in the audience there. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or just to say them.
Yeah, Joe and Rick, this is Ted Wolf from Danfoss. I'm just enjoying this conversation, and it's great to see some results and the metrics dashboard and everything. But I want to jump back to, I think, something that you said a little bit ago, Rick, which was you found out like the lead conversion process, you found customers or users were getting lost and like they didn't know what they were looking for. And maybe it was in Capsula or whatever product, but they were just getting lost. I was just curious how you kind of made that discovery, and was that kind of I might have missed some of the drivers for, whatever ended up leading to getting the push and the approval for this, if it was that, or, what was the key kind of driver that kind of clinched moving forward with this portal?
So it's two separate issues. Actually, the question on Encapsula is an interesting one, which I'll get to in a moment. So first, I want to answer your main question, and it was very simple. I had started to try to initiate a project, and we weren't quite sure what we wanted in the beginning, what we were looking for. We had a number of authoring tools. We didn't know if we needed an authoring tool. We didn't know if we needed an enterprise content management system, the problem that we had in the beginning, and again, much like we had a couple of different CEOs, I had 4 managers over the period of 2.5 years. Really, when I was sitting down with who was my new manager, and he realized that customers were seeing different, completely different things. They were looking at Encapsula, they were seeing one thing. They were looking at Imperva SecureSphere, they were seeing something else. They were looking at Distill, which is a third company, they were seeing something completely different. And not only that, but they were in completely different locations. That's when he understood, the light bulb went off, that something had to change. He was actually very concerned that the CEO would discover this before we could take care of it. And I think that was really the catalyst. That's where he said, just go with it, find a solution for that. And so, and it was actually interesting because the type of solution that we chose was also dependent upon who was managing, right? Because before this manager, I had a manager right before him, and his big concern was that he had a different vision. He had a vision where basically the developers were writing the content, and then the technical writers were coming in and just, cleaning it up. And I'm not going to get into the benefits or deficits of that specific situation, but Imperva, I live in Israel, and the majority of our SMEs are non-native English speakers. And let's just say that I've been in that situation before, and we had, for example, some Japanese SMEs and otherwise, and it wasn't something that was very feasible. But in any case, because he was my manager, if I wanted to continue working, I had to at least look into that direction, right? So, for example, for him, it was collaboration. So when we started looking at solutions, we looked, for example, at Confluence. That seemed to be the easiest where we would be able to get something started quickly and get the developers the ability to edit content together with the technical writers, although there's other tools that have, collaboration tools. And that's really how this started. But once we had our new manager and we had more of a vision of what we wanted, that's pretty much what locked down. And it was that urgency to get everything consistently delivered to our customers in a single unified format. Really, the single branded entity, I think that was the main driver that got us that first budget to move us forward. So I believe that answers that question.
Yeah, it sounded like maybe you had that insight already to, customers not being able to find the information. Was that through just, customer interviews or some other sort of data that you had pulled together? Or what kind of crystallized that idea or that information for you guys?
So my path in Imperva, I spent 3.5 years as a technical writer, as a team, like a staff technical writer. I spent 1.5 years in support in what we call the knowledge team. And the knowledge team's job is much like the technical writers. They go through and they document the products, but they document them for support, all the back-end aspects that aren't documented for customers, so that once a product is launched, the support team is ready to support those products, right? So for 1.5 years, I was inside of the knowledge team, inside of support, and we have this customer portal. If we're talking about it already, this is the old Salesforce portal which we're using, and I can show you that all of our documentation here is strictly hosted in this horribly named tab, content, which might sound logical to us, but our customers don't understand, and really it's just a big list of PDFs. What this means is that none of our user guide or guide content at all is hosted on a topic-based level here in the customer portal. So when somebody comes to the customer portal and searches for information, they get knowledge-based articles which are hosted inside this is Salesforce. But if they look at the documentation, they don't get topic-level results. All they get are PDFs. And I saw it again and again in my experience with customers, my experience inside of the support team and across the organization, that it was just, this is where users should be looking for information, right? If you're about to open the ticket here inside of Salesforce, you want to be able to find the information that's relevant for your problem. But none of the documentation here was in a really accessible format. It's not really reasonable to expect a user to download, the first 5 PDFs here and do Control F and start searching for answers. So that's really where it came from. And together with that, we did run a customer survey. One of the guys in my team, once I moved to the technical writing team and I started managing the technical writing team, we coordinated with support. We defined basically a survey. We tried not to keep it too long. I think it was still about 15 questions. And we sent it to our customers to get their input on their, on their opinion of documentation, on their experience, the strong points and the weak points. And it was very clearly, it's a pity I didn't prepare anything regarding that, because it's really got some interesting insight. But that really is what helped us make our case in the end to to push this forward, because the organization wanted that information. We got the collaboration of support to be able to run this survey, and it became clear that users' biggest problems were they just couldn't find the information they were looking for.
Super, thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. You could have actually, when you were showing me the this part right here, you
Yeah.
could have put our company's name on it, and I would have thought it was the exact same thing. And like, this looks so familiar.
Yeah, and this is, and I'll tell you, it's. I mean, I don't want to complain. From what I understand, the Salesforce, the community is much better. This is old technology, but for example, this feature video hasn't been changed in 2 years. Nobody's managing this content. Even this banner here has been here for the past year. It's to change things is so challenging. We have to open a ticket internally, and IT has to have it, and if it requires any work, we have to get the resource budgeted, and a lot of times they actually want money for the time that somebody's going to work for it and know where the budget's going to come from. With the documentation portal, that's all in our hands, and that's really something that's great about it. I mean, even like the videos is one of our next projects. We're gonna be adding video. We have to determine how it's going to be. The content's going to be managed. I mean, the biggest challenge for videos is making sure that they're maintained and updated, and that's where we have a lot of research to do, because we have videos here inside of our customer portal that I created when I was in Knowledge 8 years ago, and some of them are still relevant and some of them aren't, but none of them are updated. So, there's still a long way to go, no doubt, but the platform actually, is a significant step in order to help us at least bridge some of those gaps and provide the content in an easier way to obtain. And then once we get past that, we can, look at some of our other challenges.
Well, so Rick, if you were to kind of, with hindsight, that you've been through this for a couple of years, with the hindsight, who would you go to, and which particular message would you go to in order to have the highest chances of getting a budget for something like this? Is it with the support, the marketing, like what's the thing, what's like the pain point, the thing that like was linchpin to like get the thing going?
Well, I mean, I mentioned my discussion with my manager, but he didn't have budget, I mean, right. So he said, okay, run with it. Like we had looked at the different solutions. We had looked at, again, like I mentioned, we weren't sure what we were going to go with. So we looked at Zoomin, we looked at Confluence, we looked at Poligo, we looked at Data2. We weren't quite sure, like as I mentioned, what it was exactly we wanted to go with. In the end, after all these discussions, and we decided, it was clear to us, it was clear to me that, and in the beginning, it wasn't that clear, by the way. 4 years ago, we looked at Zoomin, and we weren't maybe yet ready for them, but, Zoomin's also come a long way. But at this point, it was clear to us. And so once he saw that, he said, start running the project and we'll find the budget. And this is actually an interesting story. So what happened was, as part of this project, we wanted the marketing team to give us design, right? I didn't want to just go with plain vanilla deployment. We wanted it to be branded, and we wanted it to be professionally done. And so when I brought it up with the marketing team, the marketing manager jumped on it. I mean, I have to give him credit. Apparently he saw the potential, right? He tried to actually wrest this project away from me. He wanted to give it to somebody on his team to manage. And I'm like, listen, this is my baby. I've been pushing this for years. I mean, you're not going to take it away from me. I'm happy to partner with you, but he jumped on it. He says, okay, we'll budget it. Again, almost without thinking, he found the budget. The thing is that he didn't tell me at the time that it was only for the initial launch of the project. So the second year the budget came around, he says, okay, we're not gonna provide budget this year, find somebody else. But at that point, it really wasn't a challenge. Everybody understood that this is a must-have, and our development organization took on the extra budget at that point for the main deployment. And then as I mentioned, customer success. I had formulated this project for a while, and then when we had our new VP of customer success come on board, and they were looking on their project to integrate the 4 CRM instances, and I had already pitched this to somebody else that was a manager in customer success, and she saw it. She said, "Okay, it's a go. Let's do it." And they just, I'd say if you're looking for ways to sell it, if you're looking for ways to get the budget, I think the customer success is definitely one of the directions to look at. Even that, no, that's not what we started with. Customer success understands that if their customers, if the people that they're serving can find information easily by themselves and don't open cases, then that's obviously a huge benefit to the customer support, customer success organization. Not to speak of customer satisfaction, right? Customer satisfaction with the products and the documentation. Because documentation, as much as we hear it said, and it seems to be a buzzword that doesn't really sink in, it's part of the product. It's part of the user experience. So if your customers can't configure their own products because they can't easily find the information, then that's a poor user experience, right? And you know, I mean, I've heard this for years, and I'm sure most of us have, and you know, it seems logical, but it's amazing to see just how true it is once things get running. You know, it really is. I mean, this is inseparable part of our product offering. If even just the Swagger and YAML, you know, everything is self-service. So our customers want to come in here and they want to be able to configure their own product, and they want to be able to automate that configuration. They want to be able to understand how to do that. So, for example, the ability to provide you know, Swagger to our customers now and have them come in here and be able to do this by themselves. Basically, this is the Swagger integration that Zoomin built for us. This is an example. Let me show you something that's maybe a little bit more complete. We're in the process right now. This is only the front end, right? We're actually in the process of Imperva. It's like a guild where we are discussing guidelines for how to write and produce Swagger before it gets to this point, because as you might have seen in the previous page, it's all very inconsistent. But that's our fault. So Zoomin basically provided us the ability now to come and enable customers to come in and add their API key and their API ID, which enables them to connect to our system. And then basically what Swagger is, it's documentation. And so customers could come in here and try it out. I don't have my API key easily available. I'm sorry, I didn't really plan on this, but they can try it out and they can see what the responses that they get. And then this way, this enables them to understand how they need to basically build their deployment. And this is something that is so hot in our company. You know, Zoomin was great with partnering us to get it out there. There was a lot of pressure to get it out, and customers can come in here and they can actually then download the YAML or the JSON file and then use it for themselves. I don't want to stop sharing my screen to show you. It's pretty much just a YAML file, but it's a great functionality, you know, and being able to provide customers the ability to serve themselves is really what's become our primary objective at Imperva. And through this portal and through this deployment and through the tools that we're offering and that we're adding, we're able to provide that. So on more and more so on an ongoing basis. So.
Oh, very nice.
Sorry, I know I jabber on a bit. So.
Well, that's what you're here for. This is your hour.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Trying to think of.
Yeah, I know, Rick, as part of your implementation now, kind of talking about like awareness and the additional, you know, value across the company. I know your CTO has been involved quite a bit recently. At what point did he get involved, and what's the thing that kind of piqued his interest in? And was it that case deflection thing before, or is there something else? Like, what made him kind of open his eyes to what was going on in other parts of the company and kind of take interest as a strategic part of his of IT or web presence?
Well, what got him involved was, as I had mentioned, we have the 4 different CRM instances, right? So this is a major project, a major challenge. We're basically migrating, we're integrating those 4 CRM instances into one. It's a massive company-wide project, which has gone on and off for the past couple of years. And so as part of that project, at the same time, as I mentioned, I had basically initiated this project, you know, before they had started with that, but the timing was very similar. And the thing is, I need IT resources in order to help us do some of these integrations, right? We're adding SSO, for example. So customers will be able to use their Imperva login to come in and see content that's not going to be exposed to the public. For the Search Federation, we wanted to connect before we knew about the case deflection widget. You know, the whole point was that we get search results from the documentation portal when users search, you know, for information in Salesforce to open their case. You know, I didn't expect it. I didn't know that it could be deployed in the way that it is in the case deflection widget because I wasn't aware of it. But I knew that we could at least have those search results there. You know, we at least, you know, wanted to get that content there. So when they had launched the project that's meant to integrate our CRMs, he came on board on our weekly status meetings because the other project was a core project for him. And then as we started sitting in these sessions, he was a very active participant, particularly in the beginning. He was trying to figure out, he was very, he was concerned, as he should be, as CTO. He wanted to make sure that things, as he wanted to make sure that things were well thought out and were going to work. How's this going to work? How's that going to work? What's the resources that we need? Technologically, what integrations do we need to be made? And so I think within really the first 4 or 5 weeks, because this project has been going on now for a few months, we were talking about it, and Hanan from Zoomin just kind of mentioned the case deflection widget, and he's like, okay, well, why don't we see it? And he saw it, and that's, you just saw his eyes go open like that, and within 2 or 3 days, it was, they dropped the budget, and we were on board. It was moving forward. So that's what got him involved. I think though, if I have to connect, if you need to, anybody that wants to try to promote a project like this needs to make the case. Nobody's going to do the work. That's one of the things that I discovered a while ago in Imperva. You need to do the homework. You need to build your case. You need somebody that you can go to, a sponsor or a mentor that you can then pitch it, somebody that has the ear of somebody else even, to get that foot in the door. And that's really what's going to get it started. But you have to come with all the groundwork. It's just to come up with an idea, and as was discussed in the keynote, it's great to have these concepts, but people don't really know the value of them unless you can connect it to what their goals are, right? But it's more than that. You need to be able to come and make the case for it and create that awareness, and it's it's collaboration. It's working with people inside of the organization. That's how we got this project, and we continue to drive this project. It's collaboration with Zoomin. That's it's not as hard as it sounds, but you have to make your voice heard, and you have to make your case. Do your homework, and come and pitch it. Build it in a presentation. Pitch it to somebody who you think might be open and willing. Make sure you know what their objectives are and connect with those objectives, and that's really the first step to getting something like this going.
Excellent. Well, it's great advice. Okay, so we're a couple minutes before the end of the hour, up to the top of the hour, and we're going to be closing up. If anyone has any more questions or comments, I'd be happy to field them at this point. Otherwise, we'll thank Rick very much for your time and your experience. And again, thanks everyone for your participation. Ted, thanks for your great questions and participation. And yeah, thanks very much, Rick. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, everybody. Hope you get value from the rest of the conference. I have no doubt you will. Enjoy.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.